did Hogwarts Express. Harry Potter girl here, so we had
in my
to do
Star Wars
all
shirt.
the Harry Potter stuff. Yes, and we did do all the we didn't do any of the other Harry Potter rides other than Hogwarts Express, though.
So I had wanted to ride the other Harry Potter rides prior to researching for this, and then when James was looking stuff up, all of the rides that I thought I wanted to do, the disclaimer was motion sickness, motion sickness, motion sickness. And for somebody that can't read a significant number of text messages in a car without feeling queasy or nauseated, I thought, you know, I don't want to ride it that badly. It's not worth it to have all the struggle of getting him on and off, and then I feel like the rest of the day. So yeah, we just nixed those. But we've heard good things about them if you're not easily made queasy.
Yes. And I have no idea how they are to transfer on and off of. Apparently, these rides have a seating example near the line, but the lines are so long because they're all being socially distanced and all that stuff that I never saw an example of Hagrid's motorbike, or what's that one, Escape from Gringotts or something?
There's an Escape from Gringotts, and then there's Harry's Forbidden Journey is the big one. And the thing about Universal is that they're not as kind to their well-fed people, so they have disclaimers on all of their big rides that say, if your waist is more than 40 inches wide, you probably can't get on this. I guess it also just depends on where and how you carry your weight, and how big your legs are versus stomach and whatnot. But
I saw plenty of big people getting on any and all of those rides.
I don't know how they did it. Maybe they're squishier. Not sure. But apparently if you are well fed, then you are probably, just be prepared to not have as much luck on those rides.
Yeah, true. And I can attest to the transfers because we didn't even get close enough to look at them. Hogwarts Express, though, was interesting because it's like a train, and you would think that all the train rides would be, you know, a no-brainer. You just get on the train and off you go. But this is an actual ride. And so you get in.
Do you want me to speak to this one as the Hogwarts nerd?
Well, sure. Go right ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, I've never been on an actual train, sadly, so I'm not sure how they work. But in the movie, if you've seen the Harry Potter movies, each train car has on one side like a hallway that you would go down, and you see in different scenes some of the characters. That's where the old lady with the candy trolley runs up and down, and then there's little like rooms that seat 6 or 8 people in each little kind of like cabin within a train car, and then there's however many train cars. And but it's in the cabin, you have seats on the left and seats on the right, and the window on the back, and of course the hallway on this side, and it's just 2 little kind of sliding doors that open and shut for you to get on and off, to emulate the real Hogwarts Express, which is super cool, very realistic, not really wide enough to be accessible. So what they do on the very last cart is they have the doors that would normally slide open and shut on a slightly different mechanism so that they can overlap each other. And then on the side where you have seats on this side and seats on that side, on one side, on the back side, there's only like 1 or 2, the bench is only 1 or 2 butts wide, if you will. And then there's just a gap. And so what happens is the doors that should open in the middle slide all the way to this side, and then half of this seat swings open on this big wide door. I think I have a picture of it kind of halfway open and shut as we were getting on and off. If I have a picture, we will insert it here to see. But it swings wide so that there's, you know, a 40-inch wide or however wide it is gap. So there's plenty of room for you to slide your wheelchair on. You come into the room, then they shut it, and you back up to it so that you're sitting alongside the benches, and then it feels pretty authentic without you having to go, well, I could get in there if I could get through this little narrow ass opening. Right.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really nice way to get around that problem.
Very well thought out. Good job, Universal. I don't usually give you points, but for that one, good job.
Right. And it's not like a fast ride or anything like that. So they don't even tie you down. They have you back your wheelchair up to the wall that they just closed back up behind you. So
and lock your wheels, but it's, I mean, it's a trade. So you're going like 400 yards or whatever from the back of one park to the back of the next, and it's several minutes long. So you could probably power walk it at about that speed. Yeah, faster. Well, probably not any faster, but considering the wait time was an hour, I think, for us each time we rode it, ridiculous. And you need to ride it both directions too, so you can get a real feel for the ride. In fact, there's a really cool when you ride it from London, like you're leaving London to King's Cross, right? To go to Hogsmeade. Then you actually get to go through the 9 3/4 station, 9 3/4 platform. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it. Because there's the platform 10, the platform 9, and they have it set up when you, as you're walking through, you get to this spot where you see the platform 10 and the platform 9 sign, and you think, oh, this is platform 9 3/4. But what you're actually experiencing, and you have to watch the person in front of you, because it's not one of those you can experience yourself. You have to experience for the person ahead of you. You stop at this section, and there's this big, it looks like a mirror, but clearly it's not exactly a mirror, but it's set up so that when the other person goes around the corner, you actually watch them go through the platform and disappear. And I happened to catch the person right in front of James doing it, so I pulled out my phone to record him doing it and told him I was going to record him, and he gets right almost to the spot where he's supposed to disappear and stops and turns around and smiles at me. I was like, well, that wasn't exactly what I was going for.
I wasn't sure what you were
Yeah, he obviously didn't know what we were doing, so I had to get him to go back and turn around and take 2. But it was really cool. So you get to watch the person in front of you disappear as they go through the platform.
We'll put it right here too, so you can see
the video. Okay. He just goes.
It's really cool.
Very cool. Really cool. And on the train itself, as you're going through on the windows, which are clearly not actual windows, there's little scenes that play. So it is important, like you said, to ride it both directions, because on one direction, as you're leaving London, you're seeing the London stuff, and then you go through and you eventually arrive at Hogsmeade where Hagrid greets you. On the other way, you're leaving Hogwarts, so you're watching Harry fly across the lake on a hippogriff, and you see the Weasley twins shoot their little firework things like they do at the end of 5 when they're rebelling against Umbridge. And so it's not like it's the exact same setting in reverse. You actually see scenes that make sense. You see the night bus going through London as you arrive, and it's very cool. It's a long wait, so maybe do it just once both directions, unless it just happens to be a really calm day or you don't have a lot going on. But it's definitely worth doing at least once. You do have to have the park hopper pass, though, in order to experience that, because you are going from one park to the other. So they make sure you have your park hopper pass. Yep, so you have to decide in advance when you're buying the tickets if you really want to do the express or not.
The next day was Magic Kingdom.
No. Yes. That's Magic Kingdom. Yep.
Yeah, you bet. And the first thing we did when we got there was the Jungle River Cruise. Now, it's very interesting how you get on and off the Jungle River Cruise. Now, these are little boats that normally you would step down a couple of steps into the boat and have a seat. Obviously, you can't do that from a wheelchair. So what they've done is they created a platform that rises up from the center of the boat, from the bottom, middle of the boat, and then they turn it 90 degrees, and it creates a ramp that you can go up on, and then they can lock your wheelchair down, turn it back that's 90 degrees, and drop it down at the bottom of the boat.
The way you're facing forward and not sideways.
Yeah. So
the boats are like, if you've ever been on like the San Antonio river boat cruise or things like that, where it's a kind of a wide boat and you have benches all the way around the outside and then a row of benches in the middle. So it's a very, like, everybody kind of sits around in a kumbaya kind of circle.
Yep.
So you take up the center section in yours.
Sure. And then you do the ride, go around, do the thing. It's kind of silly. It's a ride that was there from the beginning, so it's one of those classic rides that you probably should do just because, you know, it's an original.
Very dorky.
Very dorky, though.
And in the Christmas time, it is particularly dorky because they have a lot of, like, Santa jokes and things that, I mean, I'm sure they have this equivalent, not holiday-themed jokes.
And whoever your captain is, he's really the one
that
that makes the ride fun or less fun. And then when you get back, the opposite, they raise the platform up and they turn it 90 degrees the other way. So now you're facing forward to get off the boat. So it's really nice. You're facing forward when you get on, and then you face forward when you're getting off. So
you never have to do that.
You
I'm going to go backwards and be at the mercy of whoever's holding on to me. It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really nice, really easy to do. The next ride was Haunted Mansion, which Haunted Mansion is like Spaceship Planet Earth and a couple of other rides, well, several other rides at Disney, where it's a track that's continuous. So there's pods continuous on the track, and they never stop unless they need to stop them for someone like me to get on and off. And they're clamshells, so when you sit down, you're kind of surrounded by the back of the ride, and it comes up beside you. Now, they have a couple of pods, I guess, at least one, a couple of pods where they've cut the side out so that you can put a transfer board on the edge, and it's where your seat is, but the front of the seat is where the edge of your transfer board will be. So it's kind of narrow passage to get past that little lip and then into the seat. It's not terrible, but it would be difficult. Yeah, it would be difficult to do without a transfer board. I've done it without a transfer board 20-something years ago. I have no idea how I got on that thing, to tell you the truth.
I don't know. Well, it was definitely a two-person job.
Yeah.
I probably could do it. Yeah. A lot of things could potentially go wrong trying to do it by yourself.
Sure. Put my right foot in, slid up. It's a bit of an up transfer into that one too.
Not quite as much as riser resistance, but it was an uphill slope.
And then just pulled my left foot in once I was in the seat, and then just did the opposite when I got out. Again, having the transfer board made a huge difference. All these rides would be difficult to get in without a transfer board. Third ride we did was Under the Sea, Ariel's Journey, Little Mermaid. It's each of the ride pods. It's just like the Haunted Mansion ride in that it's a continuous belt, and there's pod all the way around the belt. And the pods are shells, so the back of the pod is a shell. Now the pod that we got in basically had the shell cut in half, and it would lower down into a ramp, and I'd just roll up the ramp.
The back of the seat would literally unfold down twice, I think. And and as you're getting on and off of it, there's a conveyor belt that runs alongside it. Same with the Haunted Mansion one. But because it was you didn't have to transfer ride, we didn't have to stop the whole thing. So you literally, the conveyor belt's going really slow, and so is the ride. So as it's going down, they unfold it, drop the ramp onto the conveyor belt, and you just roll right up, and then they fold it in and lock it into place.
Yep.
And you can stay in your chair, which is nice, unlike Haunted Mansion.
Super easy. Yep. So highly recommend that. It's a cute ride. Obviously, it's not an original ride because Little Mermaid's not that old.
It was like 89 or 90.
Yeah, but the park opened in 70.
Oh, that's right. This was at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, it's Magic.
Yeah.
The last ride we did at Magic Kingdom was the Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger ride, and it's another shoot 'em up ride, kind of like the Men in Black ride. Yeah, you can tell we're getting close to New Year's with the fireworks.
Our very alert dogs.
Yes, our dogs are
very
not
unhappy
fans.
dogs.
So Buzz Lightyear.
The ride seats, other than the fact that you shoot with it, were just like the Little Mermaid rides. They're in a shell. The back flips down. You roll right in. The back flips up. I mean, the ride carts were almost identical.
Yeah. The only problem with the Buzz Lightyear ride is that the second part of the ramp that folds down is only about a foot or foot and a half long, and it's quite a bit steeper than the rest of it. So it's steep, and then it's pretty flat rolling into to where you're gonna put your wheelchair and lock your wheels. The problem is getting off. You back up, and then all of a sudden you're really going down a steep slope. So be really, really careful when you're backing up, and maybe have somebody behind you to hold your wheelchair.
You did. That one you'll have to, unless you have more than 2 people in your party, you'll probably have to rely on the Disney, what do they call
Cast members.
Cast members. because the person that is riding with you has to go in first before you roll in, and then come out after you, because there's just not enough room to maneuver around there. So it would be hard for me to have like climbed over him and out and then help him down. So you have to rely on the cast members, and they'll have you. I mean, they've got you. He had him. Didn't feel like it because he was going backwards at quite an incline. But he had him. It was
got my attention.
Older gentleman, very sweet,
very,
and
very nice
they're really good about making sure you feel safe and comfortable in what you need.
Yeah, they're very good at that.
But don't do it without somebody behind you.
Right, definitely.
Could be terrifying.
Yeah.
And potentially dangerous. Could be a really bad day if you're not prepared.
Could be a bad day for you. Our last day in the Disney parks was at Epcot, and the first ride we did was Test Track, and I'll put a picture of the.
It was a joyous ride. The
ride the car, if you will, that you get in for Test Track, and it's a pretty difficult ride to get on. They put you on down at the place where they check the seatbelt, so you won't get on and off the ride at the same place as everyone else. You'll get on it a little past that.
Yeah, so everybody. It's because it's another one of those you don't quite stop kind of things, and normally, and so everybody's hopping in as the other people are hopping off on this side, and it's like a stereotypical roller coaster where it's kind of a revolving door, but it's quite a drop. And you go, after you load, you go up and around this corner where it's up a hill, and that's where, we're almost out of battery on that. And that's where they do a seatbelt check, because people are getting on and off, so that's where they check to make sure your seatbelt's locked, because the ride does have some kind of jolty, twisty, turny things, and at the seatbelt check, it just happens to line up almost perfectly with a kind of a standard wheelchair situation, and that's where they would load you.
Yeah, it's about like getting in a car, but unfortunately it's getting in a car who has a low door that doesn't open. So in my case, I can't remember. I think we put my legs over the edge first. Then they put a little, probably like what they would use for kids, a booster seat in the place, because when you go in, the seat's quite a bit lower than that edge that you just went over. So it'd be a big lift to come across.
Which going down would be cake. Getting back out
would be more difficult. So they put that in place, and they also have
like a handrail
a grab rail that they can put in and take out to help you also get into place. So we put my feet in, and then it was a forward transfer onto the edge of the car and then down into the seat. And I can't really speak to getting out because it's a difficult ride to get in and out of. They'll allow you to ride it twice without getting out of the ride. So we rode it once and it was great. And then we started our second ride, and we got about a third of the way through the ride, and it came to a halt. And having already ridden the ride, we knew that it shouldn't come to a halt right there.
There's not a spot where you stop.
So, the lights are all dark, and the voice comes on over the PA system saying, "Everybody please stay in your car, we'll be with you shortly." And then all the lights come on, like all the lights come on, not just the lights when you're riding the ride, but all the lights like when they're cleaning things up.
Like a big, bright, white spotlight.
We happen to be in a flat spot in the indoor part of the ride with plenty of room on either side of our vehicle. So they came by and said, "Just stay there. We've got somebody coming. We're going to get you off the ride in no time. Just hang in there, blah, blah, blah." About 20 minutes later, the fire department showed up.
Local fire department.
Local
Not even
fire
Disney
department.
Fire department. It was like the local area
fire department.
4 or 5 big buff firemen.
So they brought basically a fold-up version of the aisle chair like I used on the Millennium Falcon ride, and they unfolded it, and then the 4 of those guys grabbed me and pulled me out of the ride, strapped me into the little chair, and we made our way through the maze-like structure of the inside of the ride to get to a elevator to get me down to my wheelchair and get out. It took about 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
So,
crazy.
In theory, since you were sitting in the booster seat, which is really entertaining for the people that are with you, because now somebody that you're accustomed to being about your eye level sitting down or way below you standing is now way up here because he's already taller than you to begin with, and now he's in this booster. So in theory, it would be they would put the grabber back down and lift you onto the edge. Probably would need some pant holding, some britches assistance, like I did so many times. Yeah. That's my guess as to how you would get out of that. But when in doubt, just hope that the ride stops halfway through and the local fire department has to remove you, because that was the easiest transfer I had to help him with all day. I just got to stand back and watch.
I asked those guys if they'd come with me throughout the park the rest of the day and put me on and off of rides all day long, but they declined that offer. So, you know.
Pleasantly, they were nice about it, but they laughed at him a little.
It was pretty funny. From there, we did the Epcot experience, which is really just a movie, but it's kind of cool to go in and see how the whole idea of Epcot started and how it got to the point where it is today. It was really cool and fun.
It's like a room that's kind of in a ball, and you roll in, and there's a thing in the center that, like, you know, it's the whole area of Epcot, and it lights up.
A diorama of Epcot, and it lights up different parts of it when they're talking about the various things that they've added and what they have.
And it lights up in all different kinds of ways. When they were talking about the Moana stuff and all the Moana-y things. But anyway, it's just like a room with a carpet. You roll right in and right out. There's no transfers. It's not a moving situation. So
then we went to a couple of the different country pavilions and had lunch and all that stuff, and met up with a friend of mine from college and had a good visit. And then we went and did Soarin'. What they call it, Soarin' Around the World is what it's called. Now, it's a really cool ride. The transfer is about probably 2 to 3 inches above my wheelchair, and there's a hand. It's a seat. So you're sitting in a seat and you have armrests on both sides of the seat. But as far as I know, the one on the outside didn't swing away. So it was a little bit of a narrow gap because the seat's not that wide, so it was a little bit more difficult to get on than it should have been.
Transfer board. Again,
transfer board's helpful. This would probably be one that you could really do without a transfer board. Maybe not as easily as Star Tours, but kind of along those lines.
If the end thing does move, which it may, and we just didn't know, or if it doesn't, it should. Disney fix that. Yeah. Then that would be a pretty easy transfer.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, your feet are not supported in any way.
Once you get on it, you do.
Yeah, once you get on the ride, because it's supposed to simulate being on a hang glider. And so if you are prone to spasticity, when your legs are dangling or moving around without being supported in any way, just be aware of that. They have a little loop between your legs that you can run your safety belt through. And so I went ahead and did that. That's designed for little kids, but I was like, I never know what my spasticity is going to do. I didn't have any problems on the ride, but it's something that could have happened and definitely would have been disconcerting.
And there's each section of the ride, each section of seats is 3 rows. And usually, because there's the most space in the very front, if you were in a wheelchair, they put you in the very front. And so as the 3 rows, once you get in and seated, I don't even know how to move my hands. The 3 rows pull up like this.
Go up. And so the front row goes up highest.
You're 10, 12, 15, 20 feet up in the air by the time all is said and done, because you've got a gap and then the row that's underneath you, and then a gap and then the row that's underneath them. Yeah. And so you would really not want to have some spasticity and slip out of that. That would be a long and painful drop.
It would be a very bad day.
Very bad day. So when in doubt, if you're at all prone to spasticity,
if you survived it, you might own Disney after something like that.
Yeah, ouch. But if you're prone to spasticity at all, or you get any kind of the wiggles, run the center loop through, because it'll go in between your legs and you may dangle like a sad carrot on a stick, but you're not going to fall all the way through. Yeah. So it would be painful and uncomfortable, but livable.
Such a beautiful ride. So it's cool. one that you definitely should do. And it's very relaxing. Very popular ride too. So it can have long lines sometimes.
And it's 4D. So as you're going through, it's soaring you through kind of the most iconic places in each country or each continent or whatever. Well, there was more than 7 though.
Sure,
so I think there were a couple of, and it's sad because you go through some really beautiful hillsides and mountains, and and all kinds of different, just gorgeous areas of the different countries. And then you get to Americas, and it's some like nasty red clay.
It's off in Utah. It's beautiful, but it's a balloon. It's a balloon festival in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
beautiful,
pretty,
but they could have done better than that.
You watch it, you go, that's the prettiest thing we have in America. I mean, when you compare it to some of the other countries and some of the gorgeous seascapes and things, it's pretty sad. But it does, as you go through the different seas, there's senses that, you can smell the dirt when you're running through the Africa. I don't know what you call that. Savanna, whatever, where all the elephants are stomping. Yeah. And then you run through a section with flowers, and you can smell all the fresh flowers. So it's
really cool.
It's a very, if you need to just chill and just enjoy and not be overstimulated, it's a good one.
And the last two rides we did in Epcot were Living with the Land and Journey into Imagination. And in both cases, they were just pull your wheelchair onto the ride. It was easy. I don't even think either one of them tied the wheelchair down. They just had me put my wheel locks on.
Living with the Land was kind of like a boat. But it's like you're in like a foot of water. I mean, you're not in like the Jungle River where you're in like a reasonable amount of water.
It's more like a log flume ride that doesn't flume you at all.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really cool because it talks about...
Like a lazy river ride.
Yeah, like a lazy river. It talks about all the different kind of economic choices, not economic, what am I thinking? What's the word?
I don't know.
Anyway, the natural resources that Disney World is trying to, the climate stuff and, all the agricultural things. So you get to go through a section with all the different plants that they're growing and their in-house, in-house greenhouses, is that what they call them? So it's a really informative ride, and it's really cool to see all the different plants and the different ways they grow them and the different, methods that they've used to conserve, all the conservation. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. And so that's really cool. Journey into Imagination is really cute if you're like 6. We didn't know. We just happened to be right there, and it was a ride he didn't have to transfer for, so we thought we'd test it out, and it's some little dragon critter. I guess I'm too old for it. I didn't know who Figment was. Maybe if you have kids, you might know. Yeah. I don't know if he's a TV show guy or whatever. He's probably like the new Barney.
Could be.
But it was cutesy, but it was really dorky, and you go through like the 5 senses and how your 5 senses are affected by imagination. But it's easy because you just roll right onto it and right off. But it's dorky, very dorky.
Yep, piece of cake. Thanks for joining me, Karis.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us, and click the thumbs up button if you would, and subscribe down below. You know what to do, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.